This is the mysterious disappearance of Craig Freer. On June 27th, 2004, 17-year-old Craig Freer disappeared without a trace. But what would cause the 17-year-old soccer player to just vanish? Let's dive in. The last known sighting of Craig was on June 27th, 2004, after he left his girlfriend's apartment to walk towards his car. On his way to his car, he turned and entered the woods behind the Cambridge Manor Apartments on Washington Ave in Scotia, New York. On the day of his disappearance, his parents assumed that he was going to work at the local Price Chopper grocery store. His mother, Veronica, recalled him carrying out his work uniform shirt with him to the car. A few hours later, she went to get groceries at the Price Chopper and discovered that Craig was not there. Veronica went looking for her son and eventually found him hanging out at his friend's place of work. She confronted Craig, but he said it was just a big misunderstanding and that he would be heading into work shortly. Veronica believed her son and she left. Eventually, she sent her husband Bill to make sure that Craig had actually gone to work. When Bill arrived, Craig was still not there. Bill learned that Craig had actually been fired from work over a month ago after he had stopped showing up for his scheduled shifts. And instead of telling his parents he had been fired, he pretended to still go to work. Veronica called Craig's girlfriend to see if he was at her place. She denied seeing him, but Veronica felt that she was lying, so she called her again and she eventually said that Craig was at her place. Veronica insisted on speaking with Craig. She told him that she knew that he had been fired from work and he needed to come home immediately, to which he responded that he would. Craig's girlfriend lived approximately 10 minutes away from his house, and he left the apartment complex at approximately 2 p.m. Both his girlfriend and her mother reportedly watched Craig through the window walking towards his car. They reported that he suddenly stopped, turned around, and started walking in the opposite direction. Bill had reportedly spotted his son's car and was standing next to it waiting for Craig to leave his girlfriend's apartment. Bill stated that he never saw his son, but Craig allegedly saw him, and that Craig had most likely wanted to avoid a public altercation, and that is why he had changed directions. Part 2 will be up later this afternoon, and I'll see you then.
Hello lovelies, I'm True Crime Caitlin, and today I'm going to be covering one of my most requested cases. This case is the unsolved murder of Charlene Downs. Thank you to the commenter for the suggestion. Today's case takes place in Blackpool, and on the 1st of November 2003, 14-year-old Charlene was hanging around the town with her friends. It was quite late in the afternoon, but she did promise her mum, Karen, that she would be home by her 10 o'clock curfew. Karen was working this night, and when she arrived home at 10 p.m, she found that Charlene wasn't there. Initially, Karen and her husband Robert didn't worry too much. Sometimes Charlene would come in later than her curfew was, and she was a little bit rebellious sometimes, which is totally normal for a 14-year-old girl. After several hours of waiting for her to come home, Robert decided to go out on his bike and cycle around the town to see if he could find her. But she was nowhere to be seen. During this time, Karen is ringing Charlene's phone over and over but is not getting a response. Karen and Robert are really trying not to worry, so they thought maybe she had gone and slept at a friend's house and just didn't tell them, so they ended up just going to bed that night. When Karen woke up the next morning, she said that she just had this gut feeling that something was off. She and Robert drove round to all of Charlene's friends' houses to see if she was there, if she had in fact slept out. But they just kept getting the same answer. Charlene was not there and they didn't know where she was. When they got to the house of the girls that Charlene was actually out with the night before, they told Karen and Robert that they had last seen Charlene in the town at about 10:30 p.m. when they had to leave her because they had babysitting duties. Now realising that Charlene was not with any of her friends, any of their family, and she hadn't been in touch, Karen rang the police to report her missing. The police, however, didn't take the report straight away, and they instead told Karen that she had to wait another 24 hours before she could report her 14-year-old daughter missing. 40 hours after eyes were last set on Charlene, Karen rang the police again, reporting her missing, and finally this time they came to help. They printed missing person flyers, they done door-to-door inquiries, followed up on all sightings and tips, searched Charlene's family home, interviewed her friends and her family, but all of this was just turning up nothing. And slowly the case began to go cold. Karen had noticed a lack of newspapers, media coverage, or really anyone talking about Charlene's case, so she contacted a local newspaper, and what they told her shocked her to her core. They told Karen that they had known about Charlene's case for some time, but they were told by the police to not run the story because they assumed that Charlene was a runaway. This was news to Karen, who was under the impression that police were investigating this as a missing person and not as a runaway. After this, Charlene's name, face and picture was blasted all over the media, but sadly it was a little too late and her case had already gone cold. And it stalled for the next 3 years. In 2006, police finally arrested 2 men in connection with Charlene's disappearance. A brother of one of the men had reported him to the police after he overheard a disturbing conversation where they supposedly are talking about murdering Charlene. These 2 men were Ayad Al-Batiki and Mohammed Raveshi, who were business partners and worked at a local takeaway, which was named Funny Boys. Police bugged their homes, cars and place of work, and that's where they heard very disturbing details allegedly about Charlene. Apparently on the tapes you can hear Ayad talking about raping Charlene before murdering her out of anger. Then Mohammed chimes in, and this is where you can hear details about Charlene's body being fed through a meat grinder, cooked and served as kebab meat to customers in their takeaway shop. Before arresting these men, police contacted Charlene's family just to give them the heads up that arrests were going to be made, but they didn't have the decency to tell them the details that they knew. Instead, police first give that to the media, who broadcasted it, and that's how Charlene's family found out. Ayad and Mohammed's trial began at Preston Crown Court in May 2007, and the trial ended with a hung jury. Half the jurors believed that they were guilty and the other half believed that there wasn't enough evidence to prove their guilt. Both men were released without charge, and they both actually received £250,000 compensation for false arrest. There was supposed to be a retrial, but apparently that fell through because the transcripts from the tapes weren't typed up correctly. Karen and her family have since done protests to make this new trial go ahead, but they're under the belief that the police are actually protecting these 2 men. So sadly, again, Charlene's case began to go cold. There was movement in the case in 2017 when a man was arrested and questioned, but he was released 48 hours later. And that is today's awful case. I would really recommend you all going and watching the pinned video from the commenter that I've tagged in today's video. This woman knew Charlene and her family, and she has a very good video on, and it's pinned, where she talks a little bit about Charlene personally and then about her family situation as well, so I would definitely go and give that a watch. This is still a working case, and I hope and pray that Charlene can get her justice and that the people who love her can get closure. It has been 19 years since Charlene was last seen, and someone out there knows what's happened and needs to speak up. I really hope that the material that was on the tapes was false and that poor Charlene wasn't raped and then killed and chopped up and cooked. That is just horrible, and no one deserves that, especially not an innocent, kind, beautiful 14-year-old child. What do you all think about Ayad and Mohammed? Were they responsible for whatever happened to Charlene? I don't know. I feel like potentially, because the stuff that was spoke about on the tapes, that doesn't just come from nowhere. But again, this is me just speculating. But what do you all think? Comment down below and let me know. Thank you all so much for watching with me today. Please don't forget to like and share this video and comment where I should cover next or any specific cases that you have. And also make sure to follow for some more true crime content.
Can't control myself anymore. I feel the weight of your